Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started the Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. Afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and to share their experience and knowledge with you. I hope you enjoy it. So, Gary, thank you for joining. You're on the air.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Glad
Um,
to be glad to
Pleasure.
see you here. The podcast will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How'd you get there? And how'd you know that this was the way to go? So tell us what you do for a living.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm in the field of compliance. Basically, what my team and I do is make sure that the clients we're onboarding are compliant with all the regulations for a financial industry, basically. So we look at documents mainly and consider if the customer is a risk potentially for the company or not.
Is that like
But I
a risk assessment?
kind of like a risk assessment, yes. Yeah.
Right on.
We look mainly about we look mainly for fraudulent documents, people who are maybe with criminal backgrounds, things like that. I've been in this industry for quite a while. Actually, I started my professional career in it, and that was I think 2013, 14, around that time. So all the way through now, this has been my focus, and the compliance field is immense, and it has many opportunities. So it's a relatively new also for the wider, let's say, labor force, because back in the day, let's say maybe 20 years ago, only people with certain education could, be KYC analysts and take positions in this field. But now that's not the case, to be honest.
Not to mention criminals always tend to get creative, so there's always the need for more people in that sector.
Yeah, indeed, indeed.
So how'd you get there?
Well, that's a very funny question. I started working as an analyst back while I was at uni because I studied two languages, Chinese and Russian. So at the time, I was part of a team who reviewed media, both print and online, and sift through it to figure out if there are any potential people that we can narrow down and maybe record their background information. Of course, everything was done according to regulations. It was not like kind of like a criminal thing on its own. And basically, I got in just because I had the knowledge of those two languages and English, of course, like the
Yep.
three of them. So that's how I got in.
Very
And
solid and very impressive background there.
thank you.
How did you knew that this was the way to go? And the reason I'm asking is because not only here in Europe, I've been hearing stories from all over the world. Lately, people tend to go to universities without actually knowing why they're there. Just go there for the diploma and see what happens. Honestly, here in Europe at least, education is not that expensive.
Mhm.
In the States, as far as I know, it's quite a
Yeah.
different story. But the trouble is that there's like between 4 and 6 years absolutely lost if the person
Hmm.
doesn't know what he or she there. So this is basically the whole concept of the podcast that we have. How did you knew that this was the way to go? Were you like influenced by someone, by your parents? Did you had like a gut feeling or something? What drove you there?
Well, in the beginning, let me say that my university education was more connected to my passion for languages, not as much for the compliance field or anything else. Um, but later on, this was one of the few opportunities that you could actually use your languages or your knowledge to earn money. So you either be a translator or you become a teacher or you find something that's a little bit more out of the box. And this was it for me. So I started from there because the activity in itself does not include translation, does not include different kinds of traditional usage of the language. It's more like you are required to look at things as if you were a native speaker and then process them in that way. So it was a golden opportunity. But afterwards, what happened with me is that I continued developing in the management kind of things. So I got promoted, and I've been a team manager for, I think, already 5 years.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, thank you. So it was more like a gut feeling going into the field, but everything that came after my promotion took place was basically free rolling it. I had no idea what management was at that stage. I was lucky to work with people who recognized the potential that I had and gave me an opportunity to develop.
So it was basically a combination between a gut feeling and the circumstances that you currently were at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, but to be honest, university education, from my perspective at the moment, is necessary if the person is in the field of, let's say, sciences or medicine or something that actually requires vetting from somebody with, you know, extensive knowledge and experience in the field. Not so much if you're studying, let's say, even programming, not so much, or languages, not so much. There are numerous opportunities to learn skills on your own. And I don't know, maybe if I had one advice for everybody that's looking to decide on their major, would be to go and find a course or two online, maybe in the summers between, in the summer breaks, and just test it out. See if that's their field. See if they connect with the people who are uh, available to interact with through social media or other platforms. Because, for example, I still do develop other skills, and I rely heavily on, let's say, informal education, if you can call it that, on platforms such as Coursera, Udemy. You make a pick. There's plenty of them.
There are countless of them, and but I not that I'm against academic studies. I myself went to college and graduated master's degree. Later on, I had additional courses because it's always good to have more than one profession in case something
Mhm.
happens. So I'm not against academic knowledge and time at all. But the simple thing is that I was lucky, mostly because of standard two-parent household,
Yeah,
which sadly tends to decline lately.
yeah.
So I was, and I'm a second child, so my folks kind of already knew how to aim me, and I basically knew what to do and what I'm going to study and what I'm going to do for a living ever since I was 16. That happened, and I never really looked back. So, but that doesn't happen often, and I've noticed that many blue moons ago when I graduated, we were about 150 people there. About 140 are actually working using the knowledge that we gathered during our courses
Hmm.
and our education, which is a pretty good percentage. And I can't say the same about the situation today. So I really like your advice about spending the summer and looking for this and looking for that. But I personally believe that if they are to look for a specific subject and to try it out loud, uh, maybe they should like. How do you propose that someone to know themselves so that they can know what they're
Yeah.
looking for?
Well, the thing is that the most valuable thing from my perspective in university education is not only the knowledge that you gather, but also the people that you meet. And sometimes if you don't choose the right major, you will be surrounded by people that are not your people. It's not your field. It's not your place.
Absolutely.
So all courses online currently, they provide Discord channels, and depending on the platform, maybe Skype channels or whatever else, where you can interact with other students. So by doing that, you could also maybe go into conversations that you couldn't have normally in your physical surroundings, like with your peers or your classmates or whatever. And this could broaden your horizons a lot,
Yeah.
and
No
point you
argument.
to the right direction. Also, the courses themselves, they're not that expensive. So I
No,
think it's like
no, they're not.
the cost of one dinner or something. So
Well, they're not
it's,
that cheap, but they're not that
well,
expensive. I agree.
I've done a programming course currently, and it cost me like 13 euro. It's 4 month
That's
long.
pretty
So
good. I went to a specialized course for accounting, specifically for accounting. My background is finance. Uh, it wasn't cheap, it wasn't expensive, but then again, it was a year-long course.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So yeah, without any shadow of a doubt, the time we live in is incredibly easy to gain knowledge and to get additional qualification, which I'm always for because you never know what's gonna happen tomorrow,
Yeah.
and person should be as prepared as possible, of course.
Yeah, and in this case, I never say that my end point is not that people shouldn't go to the university if they decide the major. It first maybe takes some time to figure out what that major is, what that thing is, because currently, let's say at my age and my professional development to this day, I'm not using any of the language. Maybe only English, but that's inevitable.
Yep.
Chinese and Russian are so far behind that I don't even remember studying them. It's hilarious. And I've spent 5 years of my life doing that instead of maybe focusing on other skills that could have been more useful, or that maybe I'm better at. I don't know. So test the field. That would be my
One
step
thing I
one.
really enjoyed from what you said is that it was basically due to circumstances, those things that we don't really have control over. And
Yeah.
it's pretty good and pretty rare to see those things that you can't control and they're out of your control, and just to go down with the river. And that's pretty good. Sometimes I actually struggle to do that because my mind is somehow focused somewhere at something that's not obviously going to happen. And guys are a little bit stubborn this way.
Yeah.
So, but that's really good advice. That's pretty solid and right on spot. Congratulations to that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, if there isn't anything else, Gary, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Wish you all the best.
Quite welcome. Thank you too for having me, and all the best with your podcast. And I'll be keeping my eye on it. I think it's great.
Anytime. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Gap, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.